Welcome to this episode of the Open Concept podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Today, we have Vanessa Franz here of recently Privy Reviews, which I'm really interested in hearing more and more about. Before we get into the Privy Reviews, this is a space, from what I understand, like this was a new space for you to jump into. This wasn't what you were doing previously, was it?
I was always working in the web design kind of space. So I was doing short-term rental management
Yeah.
for 10 years, I think it was. But in 2020, that came to a full halt.
That was a COVID thing.
Yeah. So in my 20s, I worked in finance. Did not like it. Worked my way up to being an assistant branch manager at the Royal Bank.
Yeah.
And there's no room to be creative, projects, experimenting, any of that.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally who I am. So I quit that abruptly one day. I sent in an email and I said, I'm not coming in ever again. I was going through some stuff in my 20s and that was it. And I was just like, I got to figure out what I really want to do. And so I went back to school, went into coding, went into web design, which I really loved. I love building from scratch. There's just so much room to be creative in the project way. So always had that in the back burner. I would be building websites for family, friends, whoever referenced me, basically. But then I saw the opportunity of short-term management in Vancouver because it was just everyone needed a short-term manager for property. So I built my own website, got so many inbounds that I was just like, I can't take off all this work, but I'm going to do it. And it was just so lucrative that it just kind of became my full-time thing. And so I did that for years. 2020 came, and I still had web design clients, but they came to me and they're like, oh my gosh, my doors are closed because of COVID. I need a bigger presence online. What can you do to help me to market myself better online? And I said, okay, well, I don't have any more gas flying in to manage that. So yeah, I have all the time in the world right now. I was pregnant at the time. I'm going to help you. So we had to really work out, really helping them form a digital mark online. I went into hiring local influencers and creators to make content for them.
For the short-term rentals?
No, for my clients, my web design clients.
Your web design
So doing all their digital marketing that way. And so I quickly came to an issue when hiring influencers and creators. And I always thought, like, why isn't there a Yelp or a Google Reviews or a Trustpilot for content creators? Like, how could I really vet an influencer before I hire them? Like, reviews would be so telling.
Yeah.
Testimonials from past brand collaborations would be so telling. And so I thought, I'm going to look online and see if that even exists. And it didn't. And I thought, I'm going to build that. That's something I'm going to do.
So yeah, just because when we met, you were managing doing the short-term rental.
Yeah, here and there, but I was building at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. So I mean, that's a definitely a bit of a term, but you've found a need. You looked in the market. You said, hey, there's really nothing out there like that, and like to me, it's a little tough to believe that it seems like there would be a need. I mean, influencer marketing has become huge over the last handful of years, especially, but not really having a place where somebody could go, somebody could use them and find reviews, like you said, to trust and vet. Like that wasn't a thing. Was it a thing? Was there anybody doing that?
So
that
in
you
2016,
found,
there was somebody who tried it. It was called Transparent Influence.
Okay.
And so he created it. He got up to like 2,000 reviews. He was then offered a co-founding position at another creator economy platform. And so he was like, I was done with the startup. I was done that whole life. I wanted something a little bit more lucrative. And so he's like, I shut it down. But we actually met And I asked straight out, I was like, is there still a need for that? Do you
Yeah.
think this is the right market? And he's like, absolutely. We need that so badly. So that really drove me to keep going. Be like, okay, if somebody's already built that, shut it down for whatever personal reasons, but says that there's still an opportunity, then I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. So why, just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
why was that the other business? Did he tell you why it was shut down? Was it just was it a difficult business to run? Was it just a change of
It was,
priorities?
well, it's always up to the team, isn't it? It's who you hire for development, right? So he was working with a developer, and it just became so cumbersome and difficult, and expensive at the end of the day, right? If you don't have a technical co-founder that can build you something for free and you can partner in it,
Yeah.
you have to outsource it. And the smallest little tweaks are, and before AI, of course, um, is very expensive. And so when you're putting and you're bootstrapped and you're putting so much money into it and you're seeing very little return in the way of monetization, and he was offered a co-founding position at Superbam, which is a really big outfit. So he was like, okay, it was a no-brainer for him.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
When I know you mentioned you asked him, you said, is this still relevant?
Mhm.
Is this
Does
something
it solve a
that
problem still?
does it solve a
Yeah,
problem?
because that's ultimately what you need to be doing in a startup. Does it solve an immediate problem? If not, you're not going to get your customers. Nobody's going to be interested. Nobody cares.
When you started reaching out to influencers and building your client base, because that's essentially your client base is
Yes.
influencers
And brands.
and brands.
Yes.
When you started reaching out to them, did they share the same thought that this was a problem that was needed?
Yes.
Or did it take some convincing to be like, no, like we can do this? Or were they like, yeah, finally, this is something that we need. I really can get behind what you're doing.
It really depends on the individual who you talk to.
Yeah, totally.
So-
I can imagine.
And so for talent managers, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want my talent to be reviewed because they probably wouldn't get good reviews.
Yeah.
And it's straight from the horse's mouth. Like I've
Yeah.
had that conversation. And so they're a little reluctant. But if you talk to a brand, they're just like, I'd love to read reviews. I would love to read legitimate reviews from other brands.
Yeah.
And then depending on the creator or influencer, some are like, hell yeah, review me. Like I know I have a great reputation. I know my audience or my past brand partnerships have been awesome. But then there's others that think, well, what if somebody finds my Privy profile and they just start like, dogging me or, doxing me?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it just, I'm like, well, it hasn't happened yet, and there's so many safeguards that we put into Privy that would never happen because I think it's so important. Because it is a new idea and we do have to tiptoe a little bit on this because content is very personal for a lot of people, right? You put a lot like this, you put a lot of effort into it. And if you had someone write you a 1-star review, that would hurt.
Yeah, it could, especially if you're an influencer and you're early in your career and you're like, I know I want to do this.
Yeah, or you're young.
And somebody sees you online
Yeah.
and just for some reason there was a hater early on in your career, like that can mess with you. I know that's the risk that you take in any business, I think though. I know for us, there's one Google review that was left for somebody that we didn't even do any work for. It was because we had a truck and it was on a ferry going over to the island. And it was a pretty bumpy ride and the truck alarm went off. And that disrupted their day enough that they went on, took a photo of the truck and left us a 1-star review on our Google business page.
Okay.
And reaching out to Google, that was like, and this was something I like everybody all over it. It was so ridiculous because it brings down that average. And this isn't even something that Google had. There's nobody there. There's nobody there that cares. There's nobody there that can help out at all.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that somebody goes on and they see the 1-star review that was left by nickname Violator 604.
Right.
That they'll probably realize pretty quickly that it's not representative of the services that we offer. but still, like there is that certainly that risk.
And also people, when you're reading about a product or reading the reviews, where do you go first? Do you go to the 1 stars, the 5 stars?
You go and you check out
The
the
1
1
stars.
stars and see how that was. Like, why do
100%.
these people
You want more
have what were these
context in that
issues?
way,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So that was a legit fear. You said you put in some safeguards
Mhm.
in place.
Mhm.
What is safeguards in that space mean?
Yeah, for sure. So, if anyone's going to be writing a review, they have to be verified through email and information. So you can't just be, a faceless avatar. So you have to be signing up and giving your IP and all that, especially for brands, right? And then also we have a very large list of blacklisted words that cannot be used in a review. So if you try to even put something in there that's part of that blacklist, then it just won't be posted.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
Words like just like
there's vile
racial slang,
yes,
just
like
whatever,
slurs,
like stuff that
anything
shouldn't
like
be.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Somebody that probably somebody that was fishing for,
Yeah,
that really wanted to leave a bad review would go on and do.
100%. They could try, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
be posted. And then anybody from our community can flag a review.
Right.
So even if the creator influencer, if they don't see that review, but somebody thinks it's harmful, they can flag it for reasons, and then we would look at it.
What would you say? Like you're talking about influencers and brands. If you were a brand and you were hiring an influencer,
Mhm.
what would you be looking for? Like, what are the brands that are most successful with influencers at this scale that you're working at right now? Like I saw on Super Bowl, there was a commercial that went out for the Wrexham football team, Wrexham soccer team that Ryan Reynolds owns. And it was with Channing Tatum, and he was dancing and riling up the team. And I was just like, I can go on, but how brilliant I think that was. But that was essentially what we're talking about. I thought that was such a brilliant commercial for so many reasons. And I think Ryan Reynolds is a genius with what he's done with that team. What are brands looking for? How can they be super successful? And if you're an influencer, how can you make sure that what you have is representative of what brand is looking for?
Yeah, so every brand's looking for something different. There's a really big push towards brands really liking nano and micro influencers right now, so that 1,000 followers to 10,000 followers, um, because they have very engaged communities, right? They hold a lot of trust with their community because they're responding to every comment.
Yeah.
They're very niche, so brands, I'd say there's riches in the niches, right? So
Yeah.
brands would be looking for certain creators that are experts in their field, or looking for a certain niche. Um, Also, with large creators, obviously, if they have millions of followers, they're very expensive, and so you're getting one video where you could be getting maybe 100 videos with nano.
Yeah.
So it's a larger distribution, but also there's bigger risk of PR crisis with large influencers because there's a lot of eyes on them.
Yeah.
Or if you hire a bunch of smaller influencers, there's less eyes on them in that way of like there could be a really big upset with PR,
Right.
right? Then you're having to pull your advertisement because there's something coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, there's a sex scandal that's gone on, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, like all of our money is tied up in this one person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hire a Kanye, and all of a sudden it's like
No,
Adidas is like, oh, what do we do
oh
now?
my gosh, what a train wreck that is. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like, just because you have millions of followers doesn't mean you hold influence. Look at Kanye. He has 30 million, 40 million followers, but would a brand touch him? Absolutely not.
He's added some rules to his
over the years, but even like maybe even 5 years ago, right? Still no, untouchable. So it's really just about finding creators that align with your brand, that hold trust, and then have a demographic of audience that brand can sell to, right? So, influencers that have, a high female following, they're more lucrative. They're more they're more able to monetize because women make most of the purchasing for the family, right? So it's really just like brands have to get really granular with the audience that they're trying to target, and then what influencers and creators hold that target audience.
So that would be because there's, I mean, so many different companies out there that could use these services, and they would go on. They would first of all, you would tell them to find out your ideal client profile, and then you would go through the database of influencers and essentially be able to search through.
Yeah, so there's
different
100 influencer marketing platforms where they basically scrape every single social media account,
Yeah.
and aggregate it into a software where you can put in, the amount of followers, engagement rate, audience demographics, location, and then it'll spit you out a list of those influencers, and then they would outbound to email those influencers on that.
And then they would have just different price ranges for whatever.
So that's all over the
offer.
board.
It's like
yeah. So influencers or creators with managers or agents, they charge a lot more, obviously, because there's a cut to them. But it's all over the board. Like for one influencer that could have 100,000 followers, they might charge $10,000 for 2 reels, where a creator has 1 million followers and only charges $4,000 for 2 reels. It's just all over. It's all over the board.
How much of that emphasis is put on follower count, and how do you, like, I was looking at a profile. We have people that follow us all the time. It's kind of like you have 4 posts, but you have 65,000 followers. So that tells me either you have 4 extremely great posts that went absolutely viral, or you have just a bot farm that's you're buying followers to pump that up, which is crazy. Like, is that so? A follower count, how important is that when it comes to, like, how do you cut through that?
Yeah, there's so much software out there that, I mean, the Creator Score, what I'm building right now, will be able to identify through AI what is a fake following versus a real following. It's you have to look at views, right? So yes, follower count is important, the way that creator was able to get people to opt in to subscribe to their content. That's very important.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not as important as these days where it's views, right? So if you have, you could have 60,000 followers, but your reels or your TikToks are going to millions. That's eyes on your content. That's way more important. And then engagement, how many people are liking, opting, sharing, saving your content is important as well. Is more important, I would argue.
Yeah, I think the engagement as well. Like, there's just being able to respond back and building that. Like, if you were wanting to be an influencer and you wanted to build a career as an influencer, where would you tell them to start? Would you say, you know what, just start organically, just start communicating with your followers? Do you start just focusing on building a community? Do you focus on putting out content? And then to follow up with that, does the content that you put out, the quality of it, because that's a big barrier for people. They're like, I can turn my cell phone around, but I don't have the equipment. I don't have the camera guy. I don't have the editing software. I don't have the sound equipment. I don't have, a ton of money to spend right off the bat to make that happen. So how much of that is a barrier, and where would somebody start?
Well, when we look at like some of the most viral videos online, I think the most liked video on TikTok was the one where somebody's taking a video of strawberries, chocolate covered strawberries. Millions and millions of likes. How much equipment did that take to make?
It's like an iPhone 12, probably.
Right? Like, it's not the quality of content, it's what you're saying, right? I would really when I talk to influencers, I'm like, start with like, do you have a passion? Is there something that you love? Talk about that. Because it's very easy to keep that going and remain consistent about something that you absolutely love. You can branch off once you get more comfortable making content. That is a huge skill, is to be able to lift your phone up and talk to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's not natural. It becomes more natural, right? To become a storyteller takes years of practice. So I would fine tune storytelling, like Risa Tisa on TikTok, right? She literally just was in a car storytelling her relationship of
That's
her
it.
ex-husband. Look at her now. That's not high quality production.
Yeah.
She was passionate about it, so she could keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a 40 part series, right? It doesn't have to be high quality. You just have to start. And the quality and you just get better with time, like anything. Like you think about when I um, edit my videos, that used to take me so long. Now, snap, 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 done.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just habit.
Just repetition.
That's
and,
it.
and it's the same thing. Like you turn your phone around, you talk to it,
Yeah.
you put it out there, and that's why things like, I think, stories are great, or Snapchat is great, is because like this stuff disappears, but it will show you. It will show you in that 24 hours you put out a video. You just it will show you something inside of you. It'll show you all of your insecurities.
Mhm.
And as soon as you can get past that, it'll show you like, man, yeah, I don't like the way that my hair looks in that video.
Oh my God, I'm so cringe.
Not that I have hair in particular, but I don't like the way that my voice sounds. I don't like the way that I put emphasis on that word or that saying, or like, shit. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it was so funny. I won't name names, but he well, his name's Nick, but it was and he's called me, and he posted these videos, and he's like, my wife, she keeps pointing out that all my videos, I don't blink.
Oh.
And sure enough, you look at all of these videos that he's putting out, and he's just staring there wide-eyed for a minute and a half straight without blinking.
That's a great.
And he's like, you're a freak. Yeah, that could be. But it's like these types of things where now, like, you start seeing this side of you, because putting yourself out there, exposing yourself, is to people that especially people that you know. It's easier to do
with
that
strangers.
with strangers,
yes,
because
yes.
you're like, I have less opinion. But like to people that have grown up with you, or people that know you, all of a sudden you're trying to do this, and you get,
oh my God, they're trying to become an influencer.
Yeah, you get that judgment.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so it's like, it is, but I find that people that are closest to you, or you've known for a long time, because they've known who you were, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever, seeing that growth is uncomfortable for some people.
Yeah.
Seeing that growth in you, seeing that growth in somebody else is difficult. It's difficult for friends. It's difficult for family. But yeah, like I see a lot of people, talk to a lot of people that would, in my opinion, make good creators and make influencers, but they just can't get past.
It's a mind block. It's a mindset barrier as well, right? I always say that. What's I going to say? Opportunity doesn't knock on your door, right? If you're just in the shadows and you're like, oh, somebody's going to come find me, they'll come find. No one's coming, right? Yeah. You're advocating for yourself, and you're advocating that I have an opinion. I want to be heard. I have something to offer. That's making content.
Yeah.
Right. I always say, going back to like the cringe, and like it's so hard to like start making content, but at the beginning, no one's watching your content. This is the time to experiment and iterate. Thank God nobody's watching at first, right? Because oh my God, I watched my past content at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, thank God. Nobody was watching that. Like I think it's called the spotlight effect. People
Yeah.
think that they're in the spotlight. You're not
Yeah.
at all. You have to, nobody cares. Nobody's watching at first. Take the time to experiment, get better, and then slowly this will compound and more people will start watching.
Yeah. It was funny. One of the early episodes of this podcast I put out, I was talking and I wanted to do, I was telling a story and I was like 10 minutes in, I got lost in my own thought and I had to stop. I stopped. There was like a 15-second dead pause, dead air as I was trying to think about where I was going with that. Cause I went on this tangent. I was in the zone and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Somebody walked past the window or something. I got lost in my thought. I was like, what the heck was I talking about? And I was like, oh, I'll go back and edit that out. But I left that pause in there and I released that episode because I want to be able to, on our 100th episode or 110th, whenever it makes sense, be able to go to say to people, go back and listen to some of the early stuff. Look at how rough that was. Look at how like unedited it was. Look how bad it sounded. So I want to be able to see that and be able to document that.
But also like pauses are human, right? It's very genuine, right? Everybody loses track. Everybody stops. What was I thinking? Oh my goodness. Right? Like some of the best storytellers have lots of pauses.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're kind of rethinking, well, how am I going to say this, right? So I don't know.
But here's so I sent that episode to a group of friends of mine, like, hey, just kind of give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. And all of them were like, yeah, it could have been edited better. Do this. And like, I was, thankful for all of the feedback.
Right.
But it was like one of my friends who wrote me back. He was like, yeah, edit the last minute and a half there could have been edited. I'm going to rate that 2 out of 10. I was like, shit. All right, but like that stuff, I still released it though. Right? I still released it. I was like, I'm gonna do what I think needs to be done, and I release it, and we'll see what happens. But again, it's early on, and but it is. I know a lot of people that just will not be able to get behind that barrier of even turning that camera around, or it's difficult for some people to even have conversations in the mirror. And look at them.
It is public speaking in a way.
It is public speaking,
right? Like some people are natural, very, very natural at it. Some people need coaches.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it's funny with Kevin, my husband. He's had to become a content creator because he needs to obviously make content for physio clinic.
Yeah.
And he is not a social media girly.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. Right. Like I think he has 60 followers on Instagram. Right. He doesn't like anything. He peruses it. That's it.
Yeah.
So he's just like, it's a whole mindset that I've really had to coach him and just like, you have to get over that because you need to market yourself. This is your baby. This is your clinic. So if you're not marketing it, who else is going to? Nobody, unless you want to pay an agency 10 grand a month to do it.
Yeah.
But there's so much, like, content is king. Period. So if you're not doing it, the physio clinic down the street's going to be doing it. And who's going to get the clients?
Yeah.
So that's been.
Is there, are there, like, as an influencer, are there platforms specifically that people are really geared towards that they like better? Like I know for a long time there, TikTok was insane, and they've that's been the algorithm has changed a bit. We're not seeing those same kind of viral pops that we were seeing. Instagram still super strong, but in our area here, it seems to be that those couple of platforms, if it's B2B, LinkedIn is becoming more and more of a beast, more and more like what Facebook was. And Gary Vaynerchuk, I remember him, it was 2 years ago or something. He's like, if you're B2B, get on LinkedIn now, like hammer that, because it is and turning into what Facebook was in its early days. And I've been watching that closely and have been noticing that it has, like, LinkedIn itself has been changing from a platform of what it was to there's all sorts of different content that people are putting out right now that they just weren't putting out 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, we have B2B influencers on there now.
Yeah.
That's brand new, right? We have there's like Creator Logic, or not Creator Logic, Creator Match, which is basically a B2B agency,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I don't know them, but
yeah, amazing. Yes, people are monetizing. I was actually contracted to, I've had 5,300 followers on LinkedIn, which doesn't sound like a lot of followers, but it is on LinkedIn because that's your network. And B2B, LinkedIn is so powerful because everyone on there is already primed to buy,
right.
right? They're C-suite. They're the people that are going to make the big decisions on what's going to happen in their brands and businesses and companies. And so if you have quite an extensive following on LinkedIn, it's worth so much more than a following on TikTok because it's bottom funnel, right?
Yeah.
Where TikTok's top funnel.
But it would really depend too, I think, on what you're trying to get out of your sale or whatever it is that you're.
Yeah, it really
your
depends. What's your
message.
offering? Depends. Who's your ICP? Obviously. For me, obviously, I see a ton of just regular creators and influencers flocking to LinkedIn now, which is great. So not only am I talking to the brand side on LinkedIn, but I have the creators and influencers there now as well. So it's a great space to build authority and trust there as well. I actually was contacted by Archive, which is a social listening AI platform for brands in December, and they said, "Hey, how much can we pay you to make a video on LinkedIn?" Right. So even me, because I only talk about the influencer economy or the creator economy and influencer marketing on there. So for me to be contracted to become a monetized creator on LinkedIn was just so exciting. That's what it's turning into.
Yeah, for sure. let me ask you have 2 young kids. You started this when you were pregnant with your second.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like I have a young daughter and a second one on the way, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know the amount of work that goes into running a business. I remember in the early days of when we started this business, I can't imagine doing that also with a couple of kids. Like, what would you, what was that like bootstrapping this business? You are pregnant with your second kid. You'll have COVID. That's a thing, and you're trying to grow this and start this second business or this third business. At this point, right? So
I'm a busybody. Like I always want to be building or experimenting or learning. Like for me, learning is like I should probably maybe I'm gonna learn TensorFlow now, right? Like you know what I mean? Like I don't watch movies. It doesn't interest me. I'll have it on in the back end or in the background just for noise.
Yeah.
But like there's just so much out there. I feel like I know nothing. And so that troubles me. And I just want to keep learning, especially with AI coming out. That really interests me so much. And so I don't know, I've just always been a busy brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes scattered, sometimes not. But I always knew that I was gonna be something and I wanted to have a legacy for my children. And I just wanted to stand up on my own name and be proud of that name by the time I retire.
Yeah.
So it's just finding something that I really love, which is the creator economy, and then building in that and networking. And it's just been, I don't know. It's just, growth hasn't been linear. It hasn't been perfect, but I've remained consistent. And you kind of sit back and you can kind of zoom out on, the last couple of years, and it's going up. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
But Yeah, kids are fun. They're a lot of work,
The
obviously,
kids are
and they
a
have
lot of
their own
work.
activities, and that is a lot of time, but it's going to pay off, right? They're like little investments of, love, and you nurture them and you teach them everything, and it's been fun watching them grow, and I can't wait to see who they're going to become, and um, you know, uh see what they're going to do, and it's worth it at the end. I always said to Kevin, I never wanted to be like 65 years old and sitting at Christmas dinner and not having anybody come home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That's a
could
good
never.
point.
You look in the future, right? And I always knew I wanted children. It was having the kids and raising them is the hardest part, right? But in 20 years it's going to be so worth it, and you're going to look back like, oh my, I'm so glad I did that, because at that time the presence is then, and that's what's going to matter. And I'm going to thank myself.
Do you find do you find it difficult to run a business? You mentioned presence, but do you find it difficult to be present with your business and present with your kids?
Mm.
How do you divide that time? Because I know I've talked to, I was on a run this morning with a friend of mine, and she's got two young girls, and she started a business, and she's put that on the back burner, and she's uh, terrified, I think, of the time that she's going to be able to lose, and she just feels that she's not going to be able to put the time into the business that she needs to. So
Hmm.
she's put that on the back burner,
Hmm.
and I'm encouraging her to look through that. But what would you say to somebody, a younger mother, maybe is looking at starting a business? Maybe they have a couple of kids. Is it impossible to do?
No, yeah,
Is it impossible to raise kids, to love your kids,
yeah.
build a business? Like, how do you, I guess, balance your time? How do you find that? And what advice might you give
I think
somebody else?
even today I fear falling behind, right? You look at and online's really bad for that, right? Because you're seeing, especially on LinkedIn, you're seeing everyone doing so well, and you're just like, oh man, like if I didn't have these two kids, I'd be so much farther ahead.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a natural thought. You're like, I'm falling behind. Like, look at everybody else my age. Like they're doing these things. I can't do that. And so their doubt starts to creep in. Um, well, I would say that your growth don't look at that. It's so hard. Do not look at what other people are doing, because everyone's just showing their best face online. You don't know what's happening in the back end, right? Their lives could be falling apart too. So you just have to understand that your growth is going to be slower, but parents are very resourceful with their time, very resourceful, right? Like you can probably get something done so much quicker. Your productivity output is probably 10 times that of somebody without kids, because you understand, I got to get this done within this time before I have somebody coming home from school, or I need to drop them off at Taekwondo,
Yeah.
right? So it's not impossible at all. And don't compare yourself to what you see online. You are on your own journey, and the journey's the fun part, right? When you get there, you're like, oh, well, I'm here, right? But building is the best part.
Yeah.
And everyone's journey, regardless of having kids or not having kids, is completely different, right?
Yeah, I love what you said there. Your productivity output,
Mm,
it changes. It accelerates. It accelerates at a, I found anyways, at a pretty rapid rate, because used to, more evenings were spent in the earlier days, building stuff. I would waste more time or do things that I thought were productive,
right.
that I know, looking back now, just weren't. But when there's that timeline on there, when you
Hmm.
have in my case, a 3.5-year-old at the time that we're recording this, I read her stories every night before
Hmm.
bed. If I'm
Hmm.
not if I'm not home, then I know that if I'm out at a networking event, or I'm out of town, then I know that whatever I'm doing, I'm sacrificing, giving up that
Right.
time to read her that story, and I know that
She's asking.
she's asking for it.
Yeah.
She wants to be there. So I know, and I have to be very thoughtful with the activities that I take on, and what I what I say yes to and what I say no to.
Yeah. And also, kids are a great excuse to get out of those things that you don't want to do. You're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Like, we got a early bedtime tonight. We gotta.
I gotta go.
Yeah, time sticking. It's so funny. I go to bed these days at like 8:30. But I'm also up early because exercise is a huge part of my life,
Mhm.
right? So I exercise every day. It's a huge part of my health, but my mental focus.
Your identity.
Yeah, identity, but it's just been something but I've had to change even that schedule,
Mm.
right? So even the workouts, they get more effective, more efficient. That changes. I get up now about 5 after 4 in the morning. I get out, I walk my dog, I get to the gym, I get to the office, I get all my stuff done before anybody else is really awake, or before my daughter's even awake, so I don't disrupt
Mhm.
her day. So if I want that time for myself to do
Mhm.
anything, then it's got to be done when it doesn't affect
Totally.
that
It's
schedule.
self-sacrificing for sure. You have to, it is, a lot of it is like if you want to be a parent, be prepared to sacrifice and to change, right? Like kids didn't ask to be born, right? So if you're going to
That's a
bring
good
them
point.
into, yeah, if you're going to bring them into the world, you better be able to concede and to do what you need to do to raise the best possible.
100%. And as far as my wife, uh, she's not an entrepreneur. She teaches yoga. She's a photographer. I guess she is an entrepreneur in her
Yeah.
own right. But in a sense where she wants to do everything herself. She doesn't want to build a team.
Mhm.
She doesn't want to do that. So some of the conversations that I have with her are um, they're different, and it just it comes from a bit of a different world that don't understand. Now, I know Kevin, your husband,
Mhm.
he's now becoming more and more. He's getting like a bit of a taste of what the entrepreneurial
And having a
lifestyle
big
looks like,
team.
and having a big team starts
Yes.
to look like.
Yeah.
So you're running your thing.
Yeah.
He's running his thing. There's a bit of overlap there, but what does that look like on a relationship side when you guys are both trying to build your businesses
Yeah.
in a different space? How
Yeah.
does
I think he's used to what I'm doing. I've done this for years, right? He's always kind of, oh, do what you need to do, whatever. But for me, seeing him like this is new for me, right? So seeing him in the spotlight of, having to have, certain conversations with staff members and having him coming home and offloading that to me is totally new. Also, him saying, you're the social media expert, him, and because I do that, he's almost like my boss in a way because I'm
yeah
contracted to do that as well. So that's kind of like a new situation there. But having two entrepreneurs in the household it's been fine so far. We take time to spend together, just us two,
yeah
without the kids. We have to. Many times we're two passing ships in the night, right? Like he gets home 8 o'clock, works out at night because that's when he has time to do it, straight on the computer till 1 a.m. in the morning doing that. And I'm on the computer working until about 10, and then I'll go to bed. Um, but like, I don't mind. Like, we both don't mind. We're not those people that it really depends. Like, what's your love language? If it's touch and words of affirmation, it's probably not going to work out. But if it's acts of service,
yeah
then it's fine. It really depends on the individuals
yeah
because it is, if you're grinding it out, you have to be able to grind it out together.
yeah
Yeah, without saying very much.
Quality time is something
It's
that's a struggle. That's my wife's
love
love
language.
language. She
Mhm.
loves that. So with me, it's acts of service
Okay.
as what
It's
I've recognized.
many men's is acts of service.
Yeah, and I think so. It's like it feels good when you can contribute,
Yes.
and you do that. But yeah, with when it's quality time, and she's like, oh, I need you home and spend time here. I'm like, well, we can get a nanny. Like we could get an au pair. We can, we can do this. Like we can get a house manager. We should get, whatever. And she's like, that's not the point. All right.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I get it. But having to have that, those conversations and kind of um, work through some of those communication
Yeah.
patterns
At
is
times hard because you can't buy more. Whereas if
exactly.
it was like get or gifts,
Yeah.
that's so much easier. Right?
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
literally be at the office and send some flowers every single day if you needed to.
That's actually, I'm gonna write that down just in case. Yeah. No, I don't. As an influencer,
Mhm.
if you are, we kind of talked about if you're a brand
Yeah.
and you're looking for an influencer, how are you going to do that? But if you are an influencer
Mhm.
or you're new to the space, you are looking for that brand deal because I don't know what the end goal is, but essentially like you want to make a career out of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to influence just for the sake of influencing.
Mhm.
You want to be able to monetize that.
Mhm.
You want to be able to build more and more opportunity for yourself. So if you were an influencer looking to connect with a brand specifically,
Mhm.
would you be going out and finding those brands and saying, "Hey, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
I want to do this. This is what I offer," or is that a faux pas? Do you want to let the brands come to you and put
You
content
can
out, or
absolutely pitch to brands. I know a lot of UGC, user generated content creators, they have to pitch to brands because they don't have a large following. Many of them only have a couple hundred because they literally just contract themselves to make video content for brands. Um, most of the time, larger brands have an influencer marketing manager whose sole purpose is to find and send emails or outbounds to those influencers, inviting them to a campaign.
yeah,
Most of the time, it is, these things, these larger campaigns, they're not hiring people that pitch to them 99% of the time. They're looking for a very specific audience,
yeah,
aesthetic of content, because it is their brand reputation on the line. So, but if you smaller brands, like if you're new to the influencer space, and if you can create a media kit of like how many followers you have, your engagement rate, a couple pieces of a portfolio of what you can create for certain products, you can definitely send that over to smaller brands and see if they bite.
as far as it, let's go back kind of what to one of my previous questions and what we were talking about the quality of it. And you mentioned something, do something that you can talk about and you can do or for a long period of time. How many people do you think is it pretty common that influencers they'll start putting out content, realize they hate it, burn out, think that it's not for them when
Yeah.
it's like maybe it was for them, but it was just uh the wrong take or
Hmm.
they were just looking at it the wrong way,
Hmm.
maybe talking about the wrong stuff. why
Hmm.
why would you say influencers get burned out? Or why would you say, speaking with the clientele that you deal with,
Hmm.
where would you say that most of them end up failing or really struggling? Is there a
Yeah.
pattern there that you
Yes.
that you recognize?
I think people don't see the big picture of years. It takes years to be able to monetize an audience and hold trust and authority in a space, right? Like you look at Alex Ramosi, how many years has he been doing this?
Yeah, I was listening to this podcast this morning.
Right?
Yeah,
Like, I always go back to like, there's Gary Vayner, and there's like Philip DeFranco who's been doing this for 20 years,
yeah,
right? So you have to set up a program that is maintainable, right? Like you don't go to the gym. You're like, I'm going to start going to the gym. Yeah, I'm going to remain consistent. You don't go 6 hours a day, right? You start
yeah,
small and you have to, it's the long game. right? So it has to be sustainable. And if you're trying to, you know, reach out to 100 brands in the week and create all this content and write a newsletter and, you know, all this stuff, you're going to burn out. Anybody would. So start small and know that going viral is not the goal, right? Building a community, building something that is maintainable is the goal. Because you'll look back in 2 years and be like, look how much I've grown. It's hard to see growth in a small span of time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you zoom out, like I said, you see it. And so you have to, it has to be the long game.
I see there too, back to, I mentioned the equipment and this is same thing with working out. Like people that I find fail at staying consistent with workouts or even starting are ones where it's like, I know I need to work out, but in order to do that, I need to find the right gym. I need to find the right equipment. I need to get the right running gear. I should get a personal trainer. I need to buy all new food for the fridge. I need to, get on the plan.
I have to be feeling well.
Yeah, I need to get in shape a little bit first before I go to the gym. So I'm going to start, you know what I mean? But there's so many barriers that I find people put on themselves, and really
they're excuses at the end of the day.
They're excuses, but they tend to validate them in their own mind, and I'm guilty of it as well. You kind of overcomplicate things that don't need to be
procrastinate.
Would you say there's a lot of that goes on as well in your space?
I mean, a lot of people are just scared to get started. Really, it's just a mental block. You can always have an excuse, like I don't have a new phone, so I can't. Right. So that's why it's so important when you're starting to work out to take before photos and after photos, or you have like every month you take photos, because then you actually see the change in your body. You have a whole composition change. If you just didn't do that, you'd have no idea, because you're just looking at yourself. You don't have photogenic memory of exactly what you looked like 6 months prior.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? So we can go back in our stats and in our overviews and our social media, and we can look back a year and be like, oh, that's, those are the views I was getting. Then again, you remain consistent. You can see in a year, look how much I've grown. It's the same thing.
Have you ever had to kick anybody off of your platform for doing anything ridiculous?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you allowed to get into that?
There's a very, very large TikTok creator that reviewed themselves.
They went on and they reviewed themselves.
Yes. I didn't kick them off because of it, but I definitely had a conversation with them and I deleted that review.
Really?
And I just made a video. It's just like, hey guys, it is against policy to write yourself a review.
It was funny. Like I went to leave a review this morning for a realtor that I'd done some work with, and he sent me that, and I tried to leave, and it was trying to leave even a legitimate review, and it filtered in. It was like, your review's been flagged for whatever.
Where was this? Was it Google?
No, Google was fine. I left a Google
Okay.
review. It was on the realtor specific platform of some sort, and it was, I don't know, it was a legitimate review, but still I got flagged for that.
I wonder why.
No idea.
Huh.
Well, why would if there was an influencer on your platform, and I imagine you probably, like, is there a limit to the types of content that people are putting out? Like, if you had an OnlyFans creator that wanted to come on, like that platform.
That's so funny, because we just had an OnlyFans creator sign up and had reviews.
Yeah.
But they're respectful reviews.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're making content.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's safe for work on the platform, right? Because at the end of the day, OnlyFans is paywalled.
Yeah.
Right. And so for a lot of people, they want to know, hey, is it worth subscribing to this creator's content? I can't see it. You can see a couple, I guess, maybe trailers or whatever. But is it worth paying the $5.99 a month? And that's where reviews would be really beneficial for people to know.
Yeah, 100%. Because traditionally, I mean, they're going to be on Instagram or wherever.
Yeah, they're all exactly.
Right?
They're on TikTok. They're top of funnel leading to OnlyFans, on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're still content creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you kick anybody off of a platform for any reason? You said there's for language, for reviews or whatever, but would there be like
Where's the line?
has there been anyway, like kind of where's the line of all of a sudden, like even as or does that line just get drawn for themselves?
Right.
Because at some point people are gonna call them out. Is this like just open platform, or is there
I mean, it is an open forum.
Yeah.
Right. And your opinion matters, right? And there's a lot of it's subjective as well. Obviously, our blacklisted words will catch anything that's vulgar. But if you're literally like, this was the worst content I've ever seen in my life, that is your opinion.
That matters.
Right? You do have to sign up, and you are using your email address to let people know that. But if you want to put that out into the atmosphere, then for sure.
Heck yeah. You mentioned AI a couple of times as well. There was a story, I think it was a few years ago, that went out, and John, he's I think being prosecuted currently for like he created some AI AI personalities, recorded AI music, put this out, collected royalties. I think he collected 10, 20 million, something like that. I'd have to fact check that.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
like 10, 20 million in royalties, and is now being prosecuted for that. Are you seeing AI avatars? Are they going to become new influencers, or are people going to, what was that movie? She was a singer. She was like this movie star. It turned out at the end that she wasn't even a real person, but she had a big following. She was putting out movies.
They've done that. There was that Instagram follower years ago. This is like 2017 or 2016. Yeah, she was completely AI. So it's funny, in my inbox, which is so funny, I get so many inbounds from people trying to sell me things because that's just how it is. And there's so many platforms that are like, or people selling AI avatars and saying, hey, we could cut down your advertising costs by 90%. You would just have avatars talking about Privy. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, I call myself a content advocate, a creator advocate, right? It's like, I want creators to be able to monetize and build a successful personal brand. And why would I then hire or have an avatar think about Privy when I can literally reach out to my user base and say, hey, can anybody make a video for Privy, and I'll pay you, which I just did like a week ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, right now there are ways for people to license themselves, their voice, their image.
Totally, yeah.
And there is some money in that, but like, I don't think it's worth it. I don't know. I just really, creators are the commodity. Tech is not anymore. The barrier of tech, we have AI, like Cursor I use now to create code and to write code. It is so amazing, right? Like, it can read my code base and pick out the bugs, no problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just need very little coding experience to build a full app now.
Yeah.
Whereas like creators and content, there's a finite amount of people who are willing to make content. That is the commodity. It'll always be the commodity. So that's where we're going to see the shift.
Yeah, I find too, I know even on my my Instagram feed or on like the explore page, you see images and like there's all sorts of AI that are popping up, and you see an image of a beautiful woman, and you're like, you click on that, you're like, I wonder, just like, I've never seen that person before. I have no idea who that person is. And there's a small little thing that says like AI generated. AI generated.
Yeah.
But they have, you look at that and there's like, again, 30, 40,000 people following this one AI generated character.
Yeah. So Meta is experimenting with AI influencers and creators you can DM them and you can have a full-on conversation with them. they take on whole personas, like a mother of two, is an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and that kind of thing you can have. So are people open to it because it's not a real person and there's not going to be real judgment associated with maybe a very, open and vulnerable conversation? Maybe there's obviously a need. There is a target. Not everyone can afford to go see a therapist,
Yeah.
right? Like, or have we become that lonely and isolated as people, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is very telling as well. Yeah.
Is there, I mean, you mentioned it. Do you think there is like somebody's got to do a really great job of an influencer that, they're this avatar, they're creating crazy videos, they're, playing on, different, whatever it is, uh, AI soccer teams. Like, can there be a whole ecosystem of brand following, uh just like, massive, I guess, at scale? Do you think um AI generated avatars, images, in your opinion, could that have the same kind of influence at scale as like uh a Messi, who is like, I think, the number one follow human being on earth
Hmm.
on Instagram, or any of the top actual human people? Do you think that AI and any ecosystem, what you're seeing in the industry, do you think that that could take over human beings at all?
No,
No.
no way. No. There's something so special about human interaction and connecting human wise that AI could never understand the nuance of that ever. Really, AI is just an expensive aggregator. That's all it is, right? It learns off human content and assets. We've created that. AI didn't,
Yeah.
right? So it's so limited, right? They can never be sentiment or sentient.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's fun right now because it's new, right? I think it's going to get old really quick.
Yeah, you think
And
you think at some point people
yeah,
are just
like,
gonna get burnt out with all
oh,
the
it's just like,
the
oh, now
bots
there's
and this and that?
well, everyone's afraid of the internet going dark and it's just a bunch of AI talking to itself,
Yeah.
right? That's a real fear. Losing the internet. Going back to the Stone Ages, the Dark
Yeah,
Ages.
I mean, like, I'm visualizing here two people having a podcast, but what I'm talking about isn't, I mean, it's real, but I'm an avatar, you're an
Yeah.
avatar. Cool. We have
That
a
already exists on
podcast together.
Google.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I haven't seen it yet. I don't spend a ton of time on Google. I should probably check it out. But to have those types of conversations, but the scary thing is, you can't help but think that there would also be some sort of narrative that would be driven there, like some sort of outcome. So if you're a company and you are building a podcast
Mhm.
with two people,
Mhm.
both AI generated, having a conversation around something, there the the thought of that, like, there would end up being some motivational thing. At the end of it, it's like you're slowly pushing this algorithm, you're engaging listeners, but you're really just trying to, get them to buy a vaccine of some sort,
Mhm.
or a drug of some
Mhm.
sort. But you can really the AI can work that algorithm, really pick up different listeners,
Mhm.
following counts. Like, is that, I don't know, that's kind of where my head goes. And it's a
Mhm.
scary place to go. Yeah, and you think that they can have that kind of influence?
For sure. I mean, everything should be labeled AI generated if you're going to be ethical. Everything's not, of course. Like, my parents are really bad at identifying AI generated content.
Yeah.
Like, I always say, like, I need to build an app where you can install it on your parents' phone and and it'll list it as AI generated, even if it's not labeled
Not
as
even like
that.
like for children for blocking their phone, but for elderly, our
That's a
elderly
huge
parents.
demographic. That's a huge market.
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone always talks. I know everyone talks about like targeting Gen Z, but like our aging population, they have the money.
yeah,
Making kids with that, right?
yeah,
But I think, yeah, like, I mean, it's so cheap to create AI avatars. And so if brands really, if they're worried about their stakeholders and their shareholders, they would be maybe trying to experiment with avatar podcasts,
yeah.
hosts, right? And if something goes sideways, legal action can't charge an AI avatar, can they? For
No,
saying
they
something
didn't.
for defamation or whatever else. So maybe on the legal side.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think about, but I hear some really weird stats that 63% of jobs are going to be taken by AI in the next 2 years. Maybe that's real. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's totally inflated. Maybe it's like certain jobs for sure are going to get taken over.
Yes.
But even like in our space in the construction industry, I mean, we're seeing we're seeing uh, I don't even want to say threats of AI, but we're seeing things move at such a rapid pace
Right.
that you have to understand AI. Your team needs to be using AI. They need to, like, at a very, very basic level, they need to be using Claude or Chat GPT, because if they're not, then they're being honestly irresponsible with their time, because these tools are so easily and readily available. And like, to your point, if I remember when we were first talking about using AI in our company, I had put together an operating procedure and a framework on how to use AI and how to use Chat GPT when it first came out. And I ran the team through that, and they were all fairly impressed by the framework that I put together. And I was like, oh, and by the way, this entire lesson plan, this entire framework that I put together was entirely built by
Yeah.
ChatGPT. So that's like, this is the like this is
Output.
the power, and this is what you can use it for. And then there was some pushback, because there was the integration part that some people just really don't believe that AI should be a part of it. They stand for whatever it is that they stand for, but the reality is like, it's here. It can be our friend. It can do incredible things. It's going to help write code. It's going to misplace or displace a few jobs for sure.
For sure. It'll
Um,
change the landscape of jobs. Your job will definitely morph into something different. You have to be very open to understanding AI and get, if you have some extra time, like, get comfortable with it, because you can put it on your resume, because employees will be looking, or employers will be looking for that. But if you're, I find like in your industry, AI will never replace labor. Labor will be.
it's starting.
Oh, really?
We're seeing a lot of 3D printed houses, and
Right.
down in
But I mean, like, AI is never going to build a house physically.
it's they're building houses now. Like, they're building they're 3D printing and building. There was an entire neighborhood down in Phoenix. It was the first neighborhood. There was like
Right.
210 freestanding houses. They were ranchers, single story homes that were entirely 3D printed.
Wow.
So like, that was huge. Kind of ugly for sure.
Right.
They were cheap,
Right.
but they haven't got it. Like, that's sort of where we're seeing that start. But we're not seeing it, run the wiring and run the plumbing, and coming to the house and doing the repairs on the old homes. Like, we're not seeing that.
Yeah.
We're still a ways away from that. But we're seeing, especially on the design side, right? If I'm an interior designer, if I'm an architect, I'm a bit worried.
Hmm.
I'm a bit worried. There's like there are guidelines for sure, and that you have to stamp yourself as a registered architect to get a
Okay.
permit for um, a commercial project, and so there are guidelines that are there. But for the odd person that's like, yeah, hey, here's a picture of my kitchen or the
Mhm.
interior of my house. Show me some, what can I do with
Renderings. Yeah.
this? Yeah, show me
Yeah.
some mid-century modern uh, options.
Mhm.
And there's a ton of those programs that are out there right now. So you can take a picture of your room, your kitchen, and just say, what could this be? Show me some options. And you can just click through a ton of stuff. And then you can go now to, your builder and say, hey, build me something like this. So there's a lot of those stages on that design side that I think are developing at a rapid rate.
Mhm.
And that's where, that's the part of our industry that I think is going to be affected the most, the fastest.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, with like architects and engineers, they have to stamp it with their own. So they would just be checking the work. That would be their job. Just like lawyers, ChatGPT can draft a contract,
Yeah.
but lawyers need to double check it, obviously, in the confinements of the actual law, because
Yeah.
we all know AI can hallucinate quite a bit. I know
Yeah.
this with coding with AI. And it's you're just like, where did you get that from? Like, so you're always double checking. You have to, because sometimes it just brings in things. You're just like, where is that coming from? So I think it's going to be just, you give the easy stuff to AI for productivity, but then there's always going to have to be a human double checking everything, because it does hallucinate quite a bit.
I think that's up to us as humans to put that type of compliance on it. But as soon as we remove those, any of those barriers, and it's like, oh well, yeah, I know this contract I didn't have a lawyer, but AI wrote it, and
Mhm.
that's good enough. Like there's nothing really to fall back on at
Right.
that point, because yeah, I don't know, we're just not quite there yet.
No.
But it's getting certainly better and better and
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, I think university is going to be changing a lot in the next few years here.
It's we're seeing it change. Like I was having this conversation the other night about education with a friend of mine, and even the online space.
Mhm.
Guys like Jordan Peterson, he's put out the Peterson Academy right now, like world class education without having to go 120,000 or
In debt.
$80,000 in debt and go and travel and learn. And there's still something to that, but I certainly agree that school is going to be different. Education, where we get our education, where kids are learning from, how they're going to need to start learning
Mhm.
about AI, and like
Mhm.
that's back to young kids too. I'm like questioning, like, man, how am I going to explain artificial intelligence to my daughter when she starts asking questions?
Mhm.
Because she's only getting older,
Yeah.
and when she starts, questioning these things and how to do it, it's just going to be like the tech is going to be so far, or AI, sorry, is going to be so far down the road, so far advanced by the
Mhm.
time she's 10,
Yeah.
that I don't know what that
And we have
landscape
to
looks like.
monitor our own kids, make sure they're not using it for their assignments.
Yeah, where do you think education is going to
Well, we're seeing a shift
change?
that, being a content creator is an actual career, right? So it's being identified as that. So that we're seeing like a ton of um, courses and stuff in influencer marketing and content creation and stuff happening in like presti- prestigious schools, which is really cool to see for me. Um, and obviously, I don't know, like AI. Obviously, the universe is having a really hard time with like identifying AI and
Yeah.
and all that. There's some sure telling things that will kind of spot AI, but um, I d- with it changing so quickly, I don't. When I see my son going off to university at 18, which is in 10 years from now, like unless you're going to, he always says he wants to be a brain surgeon, and I know AI can't do that
Not
at the
yet.
moment,
Not
not
yet.
yet. So I'm like, that's great because AI can't take your job and we need you guys. So, but I think there's going to be a lot of careers and a lot of things being, yeah.
He could also be a plumber.
Well, absolutely, we need plumbers. Absolutely, we need landscapers. We need, yes. We're going to see, yeah, changing of a lot of things in university. I'm just trying to think of what are some, diplomas and stuff that people still get, like 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 communications. That's done. Like English lit, no, that's done.
Yeah, I still walk upstairs. We have a notary that's up there. I'm like, man, I don't even know what the notary does. Because I have a
They stamp
form.
things.
I
You
don't
need
need
somebody to stamp.
literally it was I have a form that I have to fill out, and it's called a stat dec or a statutory declaration. So anytime these are for larger commercial construction projects typically, and with every invoice we have to fill out a stat deck. And so I walk it upstairs and I fill it out in front of him. He stamps it, and
Right.
we're gone.
Okay.
And so he used to fill that out for me. And
Right.
this is like a 1-page form, but he used to fill out this form for me. And now he's printing me off like a bunch of blank copies, and he's like, well, you just fill it out for me and then come
Because
up
you
and I'll
built
stamp it.
trust, though, and that's that human
We
connection.
we build trust, but the point is, I asked him, like, okay, well, if I'm filling all this stuff out, are you still going to charge me for it? He's like, you're not paying me to fill out paperwork. You're paying me for my stamp.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
all right, sounds good, makes sense. But even that, I don't know. Um, real estate transactions, like all of this stuff where you have somebody writing for you will be disrupted. Like there'll probably be caveats there that will say, hey, we can't like undergo these, legal consequences, or beware if this is the route that you want to take. But if you don't want to pay a percentage fee to a real estate agent and you want to just transact
Yourself, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very simple thing to do here,
I
I
know.
think, in the future.
Realtors, oh, taking that commission.
I know, and I have a lot of friends that are realtors, and I love realtors, and they work hard, and
Yeah. They'll have to go into AI automation. That's really big right now too. If
For
you
sure.
can learn how to AI automate, because again, there's a huge demographic. There's a huge market of, yeah, people are in their, 40s, 60s, 50s, 60s that they have no idea how to automate, but that's a huge skill because they would love to automate a lot of things, whether that be an email list or, website, whatever they need to do, emails, their funnel, whatever it is, and they have no time for that, but they could hire somebody to do that. That's a huge skill.
Yeah.
Using like make.com or Zapier.
And I think for the older generation that wasn't used to even using the internet, they've gotten used to it. But I think there's AI is going to make doing certain tasks so simple for them that they're going to think about it, in a sense like, oh, this is another barrier. I don't want to deal with AI. I don't want to use this. But if they got to understand the power that it has and how easy it is to use certain platforms and systems, I think it's going to be an amazing thing. My grandfather, who's the last remaining grandparent, he's 94 years old. He's very tech savvy, and he uses chat GPT and different platforms all day long, and he loves it for all things. Like, show me a recipe, show me a recipe.
It's natural language, right? You prompt, it's not, brackets and ones and zeros. It's natural language to prompt.
C++ coding.
Yeah. It's so, so anybody can learn it easily.
Yeah, no, rock and roll. Hey, where can people find you? Where can they check out Privy? And you mentioned something else you're working on.
Yeah, which is the whole AI.
Which is a whole AI thing. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or is it too early?
No, I've been building it in stealth a little bit because I think it's just a fantastic idea. So I've listened to the whole market of creator economy and influencer marketing for years now. And there's a lot of AI platforms that we call social listen for brands. So it'll comb the internet looking for anybody posting about a certain product or brand, and that way brands can look at that content and then make decisions based on whatever they need to do. And so I thought, why isn't there social listening for influencers and creators, right? So we have platforms that they take all vanity metrics and kind of aggregate it into software where you can look up a certain influencer, and it has all of their social media accounts, and it has all their followers, engagement, and some very basic information. But I thought, why don't I build a platform that uses AI to analyze things like an influencer's comment section? What is the sentiment there? Is there any PR bugs or PR prevention, right? Or crisis prevention? So, in the way of like, is there something coming down, something happening online that we don't know about yet that could be really bad and we should pull the influencer campaign?
Mm,
So I call it brand safety. So it's kind of like a walk score. So you're scored 0 out of 100. So
yeah.
based on how brand safe you are for brands to hire you as somebody who's going to represent their campaign and their brand.
And so this is launch time. I know it's a little bit of a tough question. I mean, as far as that, what's kind of your goal to get that platform up?
I would say I'm like 70% done right now. So it's something that I work on every single evening. So I'm hoping, I probably not, but I wanted the MVP done before I go to South by Southwest in March, so I can show some VCs and some investors what I have built. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Bugs come up. It's just, I'm trying to integrate with both like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. So there's so many bugs that come up with that, and trying to build an AI that analyzes every single one of them is actually quite a feat. So that's what I'm building stealthily on the hush hush right now.
Heck yeah. Where do you spend most of your time? Where can people connect with you?
If people want to contact me,
contact you.
Yeah. So you can contact me with my email. It's Vanessa@privy.reviews, or LinkedIn's a really good place if you want to connect with me there.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just Vanessa Franz there with a star for reviews. And what I'm working on right now is Privy Reviews. So it's just privy.reviews. You can check us out there. You can sign up for free and start collecting testimonials and reviews so that brands can find you. We have brands looking at our platform every single day, looking for top reviewed creators to work with. And if you're a brand, you can search our database for free and look for top reviewed influencers to work with.
Amazing. Heck yeah. Vanessa, it's been awesome having you. I am not nearly as terrified of AI as I was at one point.
Yeah.
And I would like to encourage everybody to turn that phone around, take a video of yourself, release it into the world for 24 hours and just get comfortable with that. Do you have any final messages you'd like to leave anybody?
Yeah, just to kind of iterate what you said is I promise, I know it's cringe valley, it's you start at the bottom of cringe mountain, or they call it, and doing it every single day, you're only going to get over that mount, and you're going to come out the other side of a more a stronger person and confident person in the way of content. And so the only time is to start is absolutely right now, as soon as possible, and make it small, make it 30 seconds, the videos, and do it every second day, and do it on a topic that you absolutely love and that you can remain consistent with.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. You bet.